see the last verse. I don't know how many of you were able to go through the verses. So this verse, the last verse of the first chapter, it speaks about Vishrajyam Shasharam Chapa Shoka Samrigna Manasa. Why it happened with Arjuna? Because his mind was real. His mind was disturbed. So this is the power of the distressed, disturbed, uncontrolled. That it can force a strong conqueror like Arjuna. And this chapter begins with explaining the very psychophysical situation of Arjuna. Very interesting. If you see the first verse of this chapter, it says that Arjuna was full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears. This is inconceivable. That a warrior, a Kshatriya, a powerful personality like Arjuna on the battlefield having tears. Arjuna is known to bring tears to others by the prowess of his archery and his spirit of fighting. But he is filled with tears and he is not in a position to fight. So this is first learning, that if we have our mind which is uncontrolled and disciplined, it can create havoc. The pain which is inflicted by the mind to Arjuna is much more than the pain which can be inflicted by the arrows of the opponent. And that pain, not an arrow has been shot, and that pain is being inflicted by his own mind. So in the last session we saw that there are three types of miseries. The first one is called the Adhyatmika. Adhyatmika means which is emerging from one's own mind. No one else is responsible. In fact, if you see this scenario, this is the greatest cause of today's social disorder. That is the mental distress. It is inflicted from within. So Bhagavad Gītā is the first book. This is the first dialogue. This is the first discourse which actually handles the control. There are so many management gurus and speakers and motivational speakers to talk about mind control. That is not possible because they do not know what is the mechanism of it. So Bhagavad Gītā gives a lot of detail. You will see in the further chapters, in the third chapter, and more so in the sixth chapter, it is focused on the mechanism of mind, how the mind works, and how the mind can be disciplined. Unless and until the mind becomes disciplined, trained, and pure, it cannot. Like a wild horse. Till the time the horse is wild, you cannot train it. So Bhagavad Gītā gives us the comprehension on the control of the mind. Krishna gives a detailed discourse on the mind control. So this is the backdrop with which Arjuna was. Arjuna was completely perplexed. He was bewildered. He was confused. He was in great fear, lamentation. He was unable to decide. So this is the overview of the second chapter. So Arjuna is in acute crisis. This confusion has aggravated, become to the extent of crisis, which is beyond his comprehension. He feels completely helpless to be able to come out of the predicament which he is saddled in. So first 10 verses deals about the crisis in which Arjuna is. So Krishna takes charge as the spiritual teacher, as the spiritual master. And he chastises Arjuna. And first thing he tells Arjuna is that you do not know what you are speaking and on what basis you are lamenting for. So Krishna opens the eyes of Arjuna and gives him a reality check. And what is that reality check? Krishna introduces Arjuna to know his real identity. His identity beyond his body, beyond his mind, the eternal self, which is indestructible, imperishable. So we will see a very important aspect of Bhagavad Gītā. Bhagavad Gītā is the preliminary study of all these spiritual elevations. Why? Because Bhagavad Gītā introduces us to our real identity. So Bhagavad Gītā teaches us the lesson to know that who we are. We may try to gain so much from the external point of view, remaining completely oblivious of the core knowledge to know that who we are. And how this knowledge can be experienced. We may know, we might have heard, this information is there. We are not this body. We are soul. But this realization is not. This knowledge has not reached the core of our heart to translate and transform ourselves. So Krishna gives the path and the process, how to come to the platform of the realization that we are not this body, or we are not this mind. We are beyond both the gross and the subtle to the level of the eternal existence, which is soul. Krishna gives two duties. He prescribes two duties. Arjuna is prescribing to all of us. So we see in this world, we will hardly find anyone who has realization of who he is. He might have discovered so many other areas, but the self remains undiscovered. As the Bible says, what profiteth a man if he gains the whole world, yet he loses the truth? Krishna gives the two duties. So this is the very important section of Bhagavad Gītā. This is the third section, which is from verse number 31st to 53, and the final section, that those who have realized that they are eternal, their existence is of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So Arjuna inquires from Krishna that how can I recognize a person? So Krishna gives comprehension of how to be in a state of sustenance. So that is the section. So let us begin our journey to the very interesting second chapter. It covers all the three sections of karma, jnana, and bhakti. So Arjuna, when he is completely perplexed, he is bewildered, he is in helpless state. But one outstanding aspect of Arjuna is, it distinguishes him from both Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, is he seeks shelter of Krishna. Very important verse. Karpanya dosho pahat swabhava prikchami tvam dharma sammudha cheta yat shreyasya nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapanna. So now Arjuna admits, Arjuna is accepting his real situation. He says that now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly deeds. So Arjuna is admitting. So this is a huge sign of purpose. It is very difficult for a conditioned soul who is trapped with not only the quagmire of his mind, but also with the element of false ego, to admit that he is at fault. But here we see that Arjuna is very honest. He is not making a show. He is confessing to his chariot driver, Krishna, and saying that I have lost all my composure because of my miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best. This is what is desired to be the student of Gītā, that we do not make a claim to know what is good for us. Arjuna is inquired, Yat Shreyasya Nishitam. So you please kindly direct, you please kindly instruct. And Arjuna is changing his position. Arjuna till now was a friend of Krishna. But now he says, now I am your disciple and a soul surrender unto you. Please instruct. So Arjuna is taking shelter of Krishna. So we see in our lives, this is a very important lesson, that in the crisis, when we are completely confused, we are bewildered, we are not in the right mind frame, because due to attachments, due to miserly weaknesses, there is fear in the heart. And then when there is fear, it brings anxiety. And when there is anxiety, our intelligence is influenced. And in that state, if we take decision, those decisions will lead us to further complications. It will put us in further problems. That is what we see all around us in the world. One tries to resolve one problem and he gets pushed into multiple problems. So in that state of flux, in that state of helplessness, in that state of indecision, Arjuna is opening his heart. He is submitting to Krishna and he's surrendering to Krishna. So this is glorious. To the extent the living entity comes to this point to recognize the littleness of his existence and his willingness to learn and take direction, he will see that he will reach all success. So Arjuna surrenders. He was not able to decide whether to follow or not to follow the duty. As a Kshatriya, as a military man, as an administrative class, his duty is to protect the citizens and to provide them shelter for their crops. That is the duty of the administrator. But he was not able to follow that. It is like, a military man is on the war front and the war has started. And when the war starts, he sees that the soldiers from both sides are dying. And then he says that I will not fight. Because if I fight, what will happen? People will come. So that is not compassion. That is cowardice. And this cowardice is not accepted by Krishna, the Supreme Authority. So one must perform his duty, irrespective of however unfavorable it may look. It may look so inconvenient, but one is bound to perform the duty. So he was completely perplexed and he decided that let me not decide. So we should also learn this lesson, that because of our miserly weaknesses, what are these miserly weaknesses in the heart that we have been preserving? That is our attachments. Our attachment to matter and material possessions. Also, we are very attached to our own opinions, to our own ideas, to our own conceptions. And we are very stubborn. We don't want to give them up. So, this is first lesson that Arjuna teaches here again, is that if we are having attachments and if we are having miserly weaknesses of pride, then we will not be able to do justice to what we are supposed to do. So one loses the ability to discriminate between what is right and what is wrong due to his attachments. So we see that the same attachment was there between the heart of Dhritarashtra. But Dhritarashtra did not accept the consultation and advice from neither of his superiors, neither from Bhishmadev, nor from Drona, nor from his very wise minister Vidura. But here we see, and Arjuna is giving hope, and he is opening the path for all the practitioners, all the sincere practitioners, is that we should always seek advice. Most of you would have watched KBC. Kaun banega crorepati? So when the question becomes tough, so the KBC also offers the helpline, dial a friend. So in such situations, in life, major decisions, we should not be hasty to decide, because there is most possibilities that we will decide based on our attachments and aversion, based on our likes and dislikes. So this will not lead us to be able to do justice to our duty. So we see Arjuna has made a rapid progress. He is surrendering to Krishna. And he is realizing he is being weak, and he takes shelter of Bhagavad. Then there is a formidable change in the relationship, that from being a friendly talk. So we see also in our experience of practicing the principles of spirituality that to the extent the relationship is of friendliness, what is lacking is seriousness. So one does not accept the advice. So here there's a change in relationship, and Arjuna changes his position from being a friend or a relative to becoming a disciple. Disciple means who is willing to follow what the teacher is saying. So to the extent one is willing, one is submitting, and one is accepting his incompleteness, to that extent the knowledge can be transferred. He can be elevated, and he can be situated in the Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam. Very important words. This sets the theme. And to whom is he surrendering? That is very important. He is not surrendering to anyone and everyone. He is submitting to the Supreme Source, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We see interestingly in Bhagavad Gītā, the first verse was spoken by Dhritarashtra. And Vyasadeva mentioned Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Then the second verse is spoken by Sanjay. And Vyasadeva mentioned as Sanjay Uvacha. And then following we see that Arjuna speaks the 21st verse. He says, Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Pratham Sthapaya Meyachu. So Vyasadeva writes that Arjuna Uvacha. But when Krishna starts to speak in the second chapter, second verse, Vyasadeva does not write Krishna Uvacha. He mentions that Sri Bhagavan. So one may say that there are so many Bhagavans. There is Lord Shiva, he is also Bhagavan. Lord Brahma is also Bhagavan. Lord Vishnu is Bhagavan. There are so many Bhagavans. It is compared to such a situation. When you go to an office, you go to a corporate office, and you see there is a front office, which is called the reception. And as the head clerk of the office walks in, and the receptionist is there, and there is a visitor who is watching. So the receptionist will stand up and greet the head clerk and say, "Good morning, sir." And the head clerk will reciprocate and walk in to his cabin. And the visitor who is there at the reception, he is watching. He's saying, "Oh, this might be the owner." Because the staff here is calling her, addressing him as sir, giving respect, standing from the street. Then after a little later, the manager walks in. And when the manager walks in, the receptionist again, she stands up from the seat, and she again greets and welcomes the manager by saying, "Good morning, sir." So this visitor might become a little perplexed. Then the general manager comes in, same response. Then the vice president comes in, same response. President comes in, and finally the chairman comes in. So all are addressed as sir. But just being addressed as sir, the chairman does not become a head clerk, or the head clerk does not become the chairman. So similarly, Krishna, whom is being addressed here as Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So what is the attribute of Bhagavan? This is very important to me, that who can be actually referred as Bhagavan. Actually, the word Bhagavan means, the word comes from Ishvara, the Sanskrit word Ishvara. Ishvara means that which is the controlling power for everyone. So the first attribute of Bhagavan is that he is the supreme source of everything that exists. From him comes everything else. So he is the origin from whom everything else emanates. So he is the foundation. He is the root from whom everything else comes. So he is the origin. We will see in the 10th chapter when Krishna will speak. Krishna declares that very emphatically. He says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samantata. That everything which is there in the material and the spiritual world, it is emanating from me alone. So sometimes I met one practitioner of a different religion, a very learned elderly saint, and we were having a conversation. So he inquired from me that if Krishna is the source of all of us, so who is the source of Krishna? That is Bhagavan. He is the source of everyone, and there is no source which is superior to him. That we will see in Bhagavad Gītā when we will come to the 7th chapter. Krishna says, Matta partaram na anyat kinchid asti vinam. That there is no truth which is higher or superior to me. So Krishna is the source of everything. And one who is situated in this knowledge. So Bhagavad Gītā equips us with this knowledge to know clearly that who is Bhagavan. Vasudevam sarvamiti samatma sudhura. And he is the supreme proprietor. We see in this world, people are having ownership rights. They are proprietor. They may be proprietor for one house, or maybe for one building, or maybe for one colony. That's it. Max to max, they could be proprietor for one city. That is also allowed. But Krishna is the supreme proprietor for entire material and spiritual existence. That we will see in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gītā. Krishna will again very emphatically declare that Bhoktaram Yagasasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He is Sarvalok Maheshwaram. Amongst all the Ishwaras, among all the demigods, he is the supreme. He is the fountainhead of all the Bhagavans. So he is the supreme personality of Godhead. And he is the supreme controller. Everything is within his control. Everyone works. You see this entire creation. What a wonder. Everything is in perfect harmony. There is no disarray. Anything man-made, there is so many faults and so many flaws. But this is made by the supreme personality of Godhead. And everything is completely under his control. We see everything is aligned in perfect harmony in order. Because he is in control. We cannot control even the movements of our body. We cannot control the emotions that comes to us. But the Supreme Lord controls the entire creation, the entire cosmic manifestation. You see, all the planets, they are in perfect orbit. The sun is there, the moon is there. Everything is in perfect order. How is it in order? Because there is control. And Krishna is also the supreme enjoyer. He enjoys his creation. He has created us for his enjoyment. So these are the attributes. So we should be knowing to whom we can address Bhagavan. Okay. And a great sage, Parashar, in Vishnu Puran, he has explained that who is actually Bhagavan. He has given these 6 qualities of Bhagavan. Parashar is also the father of great sage, Vyasadeva. He says, Aishwarya Samagrasya Veerasya Yashashriya Jnana Vairagya Seva Sannam Bhaga Itingara. So that person, that personality who has all the opulence, all the wealth of the entire creation. Aishwarya, Samagrasya. Samagrasya means complete. So he has the complete wealth. And not only just the wealth, we see in this world that someone has wealth, but then he does not have the strength. What is the strength of Krishna? When he was just 6 days old, baby, he killed a demon Pudana who was 8 miles away. He lifted the mountain of Govardhan on the tip of his smallest finger of the left hand, which is so many miles. So the strength of Krishna is unparalleled. So he has the complete strength. He is the source of strength. He says that I am the source of power for everyone. So in this way, and Krishna's beauty, what to speak of Krishna's beauty? There is no one in this entire creation where so many compositions and so much glorification of the beauty of the character as compared to Krishna. There will be millions and millions of composition which is appreciating the beauty of Krishna. Krishna is Madhura. Everything about him is sweet. So he captivates everyone. Krishna, the word itself means that which attracts everyone. So he has the enchanting beauty to attract every living entity. Then he has the knowledge, his knowledge of Bhagavad Gītā. After 5,000 years before Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gītā, it is illuminating the entire world and giving us the relief in our most difficult times. There is no knowledge which can compare with the knowledge of Bhagavad Gītā that Krishna spoke. And his fame is increasing, expanding. As the time is passing by, his name is expanding. Apart from Krishna and Arjuna and the characters, can you talk about any other ruler? Can you name anyone, any personality whose name and fame is increasing after the passage of 5,000 years? No. Krishna possesses all these great qualities, but one of the outstanding qualities is that he is completely renounced. He is detached. He is not attached to his creation. After speaking the entire Bhagavad Gītā to Arjuna and explaining to him the merits, still Krishna was detached. He tells Arjuna, Yatha ichhasi tatha. You do as you like. So Krishna gives us. He is the origin of all of us. He is our seed-giving father. But he also gives us independence. He does not force us to follow him. That is his renunciation. He is completely detached. He is unattached. So very quickly, I have shown that how to see that Krishna is the origin of everyone and everything, of all the incarnations that come. So Krishna first simultaneously incarnates or expands as his first simultaneous co-expansion in the form of Lord Balaram and his energy in the form of Srimati Radha. And from Balaram, there are further expansions. There is the first quadruple, which is Vasudeva, which is the representation of Lord Ram. Then Sankarshana, Lakshmana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. This is how the expansion happens, how the avatars come. And from Sankarshana comes Lord Narayan. And from Lord Narayan, there is the further expansion of the second quadruple, which is Vasudeva, which represents the soul. From Lord Narayan comes the living entities. And Sankarshana is the presiding deity of ego, the false ego that we have, which gives us this misidentification. So the living entity, when he comes into this material world, he does not identify himself with Atma or soul. He identifies himself with body due to this false ego. And the predominating deity of mind is Pradyumna, and Aniruddha is the intelligence. And from Sankarsana, there is a further expansion, which is in the form of Mahavishnu. And the three Vishnu, which maintains the entire material creation. So this Mahavishnu is known as the Karnodakshayi Vishnu, which reclines in the causal ocean. And from him, from his glance, many universes are created. And in each universe, he expands as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And Garbha means that it is the innermost part. And from Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, he further expands as Shirodakshayi Vishnu. He is situated as Super Soul in each and every living entity. These are the Purusha avatars. And from Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, there are further expansions of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva. So there are many details. It is a very, very detailed and complicated aspect, but this is based on Srimad Bhagavatam and various Puranas, and also from Bhagavad Gītā, that from Shirodakshayi Vishnu comes so many other incarnations, mainly the 10 incarnations. There are Leela avatars, there are Manvantar avatars, and so on, millions of avatars. So in this way, we should be knowing that whom we should consult. Whom is Arjuna consulting? Arjuna is not consulting any ordinary person. He is consulting the supreme authority, the supreme personality of Godhead. So in our life, we should also follow into the footsteps of Arjuna. And when there are difficult situations, we should consult. By the practice of consulting, we will see that we will be relieved of the distress. Why? Because those who are authorized persons, who are representatives of Krishna, they will guide us. They will change our vision. They will change our perception. So they will remove the fear and insecurity which is there in our heart. And we will be able to see, we will be able to have a vision, to be able to see the reality which is beyond illusion. This is a very important lesson which Arjuna is teaching us. So this is the first. So this is how Arjuna manages his crisis. This is well managed. This is the best managed way of addressing the crisis, is to take consultation from those who are situated in knowledge. So it talks about the necessity of the spiritual teachers. So I will fast forward because my time is really flying. So Krishna, when he takes the role and responsibility of the spiritual teacher, he illuminates Arjuna in the Atma Jnana. This is the section of identity. This is the section from verse number 12 till 30. So Krishna gives a very detailed discourse. This is the first knowledge that Krishna gives, which is not available anywhere. Our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, when he was preaching in the West in late 60s and early 70s, he went to MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is supposed to be the most noticeable institution for imparting knowledge. So Prabhupada asked them, when they were introducing that there are so many divisions, like your IARI says, how many branches do you have? Some 26 or 27 for research. They had many more. So Prabhupada asked them, so I can ask in IARI, where is that branch of research where you teach about Atma? Where is that faculty which teaches about the eternal self? The academicians, the scientists, the medical man, the scholars, they have no comprehension. But Bhagavad Gītā gives the comprehension. A very beautiful verse, verse number 13, it says, so Krishna gives this knowledge and he teaches. You see the figure, you see the picture on your screen. It shows a newborn baby till the time the person goes to the grave. So these are various transitory positions, the temporal growth of the outer garment, which is the body. And Krishna speaks this beautiful verse, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhirastatra na muhyati. So there are two aspects to understand. That Dehino, Dehina asmin. Asmin means in this body. So what is Dehina? That is embodied. What it means, that embodied, that means which is present inside the body. So there are two distinct aspects. One is the Dehina, that means which is the owner of the body, which is inside the body. Like the car and the owner of the car. The owner of the car is different from the car and is inside the car. But from the outside, we see the car, we don't see the owner. So there is Dehina Asmi. So one who is embodied, who is inside the body, that is the soul. So as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood, so we see the picture here from an infancy to the boyhood, and then the soul similarly passes from boyhood to youth, then we see the youth, and then the same soul passes from youth to old age. And similarly, it passes into another body at the time of death. So this transition, this change of body is continued. When we completely give up this visible body and enter into the other body, that is called as death. So a sober person, a person who is situated in knowledge, who has the vision, who has the learnings, who can see this change, that change is already there. He is not bewildered. He is not perplexed. He is not lamenting for this change. So Krishna chastises Arjuna and tells him that you are arguing. You were giving so many arguments, but actually you are unaware to what the reality is. That how is it that you can kill the person? It is not possible for you. So this is a $1 million question. This verse brings us to this inquiry, an honest inquiry, to make an attempt to know that who am I? That are we this temporary body which is constantly changing, or are we the mind which is also subject to so many changes? What is most favorable to our mind? It becomes unfavorable. The object remains the same, but the motions of the mind changes. So there is an interesting analysis done by some of the scientists that if we see the composition of the body, it is constituted of calcium, iron, phosphorus, and such elements, such chemicals. So then, if we are assuming that the body is the self, then what are we made up of? Some bunch of chemicals and some flesh and some bones, and to top it up, inside is mucus and stool, and there is some flesh. A lot of research has been done, and there is this Dr. Harry Monson, who is the professor in the Illinois College of Medicine. He says that most of human body is water. So he categorizes and he analyzes. If we see the value of all these chemicals, it will be just worth few thousand rupees. But the human life is far more than few thousand rupees. So now comes to the question to understand. So Bhagavad Gītā teaches us this understanding, this knowledge, to be able to see the self, which is beyond both gross, which is the composition of this body, which is visible to us. What do we see each other? We just see the body. We just see the outer covering. And this body comprises of matter. It comprises of 5 elements, which is called the Panch Mahabhut. Bhumirapo, Nalo, Vayu, and Kham. It is earth, water, air, fire, and ether. And it is constantly changing. Because matter is always subject to change. And how this body is working? Through the faculty of a subtle body, which comprises, which is not visible, but its existence is felt through the mechanism of mind, through the intelligence, and through false ignorance. So this subtle body makes the gross body go. But beyond the gross and subtle is the element which infuses life to both. And that is the spirit soul. The spirit soul also has a composition. Very interesting. The composition is of eternity. The gross and subtle will change, but the spirit soul never undergoes a change. It remains the same because it is the eternity. It is unchanging. We will see in various verses Krishna will speak. And it is full of knowledge. The body and the mind is stuffed with ignorance, but the soul is illuminated with perfect knowledge. And it is always experiencing bliss and ecstasy, which is Ananda. So this is what we are all looking for. This is our quest. This is our journey for. We want to reach to a situation where we have eternal existence, where we are situated in full knowledge, perfect knowledge, and we experience unlimited bliss, Ananda, uninterrupted, unlimited. And Krishna speaks further in this discourse. In this section, he says that for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin, nayam bhutva bhuvitavana bhuyo, ajo nityam shashvato yam puranam, na hanyate hanyamane sharira. So this body has not come into being. Nayam bhutva. It is not the body actually. This is the soul. So the soul, there is neither birth nor death, neither it comes into being, nor does come into being, nor it will come into being, because he is unborn. Ajo means he is unborn. Nitya means he is eternal. And Shashvata means he is everlasting, ever existing. And his Purana means he is primary. He is not slain when the body is slain. So Krishna gives a very detailed discourse in a very formidable way, very interesting discourse. We should all become very interested to be able to get this knowledge, to receive it. This knowledge is not available anywhere else. This knowledge is there only in Bhagavad Gītā and amongst those who are practicing Bhagavad Gītā. They can give you this knowledge. And elsewhere it is not possible. So quickly, the attributes of the soul, as we just saw, it is full of knowledge, full of bliss, it is eternal. More importantly, the soul is individual. This is where Krishna starts. Na tu eva aham jatu nasam, na tvam neme janadhipa, na chaiva na bhavishyami, sarve vayam atapara. 2.12. So the soul is always individual. So the soul cannot be merged in oblivion. So that is a fallacy. Bhagavad Gītā completely rejects that. The soul is an individual and it remains an individual. And where is the soul situated? The soul is situated in the region of the heart. So the epicenter of all activity is the heart. Without the soul being present, a person and all these activities are there. It has form and personality. Very interesting. You will find out from the Bhagavad Gītā that what is his form and what is his size. All details are given. It is inconceivable. It cannot be seen by any human efforts. So far, medical science has been a complete distance, a complete failure to get any comprehension of the elements, spirit, soul. It is unchangeable. Body changes, but it never changes, and it is indestructible. So what happens to us at the time of death? So at the time of death, as we put on new dresses, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts a new material body, giving up the old and useless ones. So Krishna gives this identity, the real identity. He removes the illusion which has covered Arjuna. And this illusion is very heavy in our life. We are not able to come out of this illusion of accepting our identity as either the body or the bodily designations or the bodily relations. So, or we connect ourselves either on the mental plane or to the intellectual plane. but there is no comprehension on the spiritual plane that our existence is eternal. So there are many evidences which we can see from even with the science accepts of the existence of soul. The first thing is the common sense understanding. What is the difference between a person who is alive and dead? We say that the person has passed away. What has passed away? His body is lying there. Whom were we knowing and interacting with? With the person, the body remains there. But the body is useless because it is dead. Who has left? The body remains there. His entire physical form remains the same. And we say he has passed away. So that invisible, incomprehensible, inconceivable, or inconceivable element, soul has passed away. It's common sense. And there are near-death experiences. There are many scientists, many doctors, many persons, thousands and hundreds and thousands of people who have had near-death experience. They could see, they could go out of the body and experience that they are beyond body. It is also called as out-of-body experience. There are so many past life memories, the phobias. So interestingly, I found one compilation of this cardiologist, a very renowned cardiologist from America. His name is Michael B. Sabon. He was a cardiologist. So he worked in the hearts of many of his patients. And he has a recollection of death, a medical investigation. And it is available in Amazon. This book is available in Amazon, but it is very highly priced. This book is priced more than 10,000 rupees. That is the discounted price. So this American cardiologist has compiled all his experiences and his learnings of out-of-body experiences. Similarly, not going to speak less that even the former NASA astronaut, his name is Breveter Shaw, he survived 2 plane crashes of the spaceship. His spaceship caught fire in flight. So he also had similar experiences. So he's sharing. So this is the characteristic of the soul, which is distinct, it's eternal. It is individual, it is indestructible, it is immeasurable. There are so many. And how to know about this soul? We can only know through the Vedic version. There are many features, but the time is short and that's too much to cover, so I'll move fast. So I will invite you to enter into this section, very interesting and very absorbing section of Bhagavad Gītā, to explore our own self as to who we are and what are the characteristics and how it works. So the soul is invisible and inconceivable to the human sight or experiments. And the symptom of soul is perceived by the consciousness, which is the symptom of a person being blind. And the proof of the soul which exists and the details are there in Bhagavad Gītā. Bhagavad Gītā is also called as the Shruti Shastra because it was spoken by Krishna. So this brings us to our second learning of the day, that I cannot escape my miseries by exploiting or damaging or destroying them. Because when the one body is finished, the subtle body, which comprises of mind, intelligence, and ego, it carries the soul from one body to another. If we try to damage the body, we cannot damage our own existence. It is like a prisoner who runs away from the jail. What will happen? It is just a matter of time he will be caught and he will be severely punished. So this life lesson we learn that our existence cannot be terminated. It is not possible for anyone to harm us or to kill us. So the miseries that we are experiencing is a result of our sinful actions. That sinful reaction is coming in the form of miseries. So it cannot be escaped. So what we have to do, we have to change. We have to transform. and how to realize. So this is the third section of this chapter, which talks about the duties. How to realize that we are beyond this body. So Krishna gives the comprehension of performing two duties. What are the two duties? Duty towards swadharma, the occupational duty. Duty pertaining to our body, taking care of our family, our job, all our worldly affairs. This is called as the swadharma. And also because our existence is beyond the body, it is eternal. So we also have a duty towards the soul, which is the sanatana. And so far in millions of life, we have been transmigrating from one form of life to another without being aware or awake or informed about the second duty, which is the duty towards the soul. And we have very categorically neglected this duty toward the soul. So this duty toward the soul is explained in the Bhagavad Gītā. The Bhagavad Gītā teaches us that all of us, like a train, it requires two tracks to work. If there's only one track, it cannot reach the destination. It will go down. It will be derailed. Similarly, the purpose of coming in this human form of life is to perform both duties and perfect our life. So this is the duty towards the soul. So Krishna speaks in this section from verse number 31 till 53. Krishna talks about the two duties. And what is the second duty? He speaks about the concept of buddhi yoga. Buddhi means intelligence and yoga means which is in connection. Normally we understand the word yoga. Yoga word is grossly misunderstood and misrepresented. Yoga does not mean any physical drill. Yoga means, yoga comes from the Sanskrit root word which is yuja. And yuja means to connect or to unite. So yoga means that brings us is communion or in connection with the Supreme. It is the linking process. It links the soul to the super soul. So our life on one track has been like one is taking care of the cage, but he is not feeding the parrot, which is inside. So what will happen? The parrot will starve and it will die. So these are the section. I'll just go through it. So very importantly, Krishna speaks about the concept of duty. And what does duty translate? As dharma. So dharma means that one has to perform his duty. And this dharma is the intrinsic character and quality of one which cannot be avoided, neglected or negated. Like when we say sugar, what is this dharma of sugar? Sweetness. If it is not sweet, it is not sugar. Similarly, what is the dharma of fire? It's light and heat. Similarly, for all the living entities, particularly in this human form of life, they have a dharma. The dharma is to perform service. Service to the Supreme, who is the cause and who is the source of our creation. And in this endeavor, Krishna assures, because we are very doubtful. We are more doubtful than the doubt which was there in the heart of all the three characters combined together, either with Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana or even Arjuna. So Krishna assures in the 40th verse, he says that in this endeavor, the path which I am showing you, there is no loss or diminution. And a little advancement on this path can protect us from the most dangerous type of fear. Swalpam api yasya dharmasya trahitem. Even a little progress will save us from the greatest danger of falling down and going to the lower species of life. So this is the assurance with which Krishna gives, and he invites Arjuna to perform his duty. And the most famous verse of Bhagavad Gītā, very often quoted, but most misunderstood. I would love to give comprehension, but I have less time. It says, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phal heturbhur Mate sango asti akarmani. Very, very phenomenal verse. Just see what this verse speaks. Krishna says that, my dear Arjuna, you have only one right. What is the right? That you have the right to perform your prescribed duties. Very important. Not whatever we decide to perform. That is not karma. Karma means that is prescribed by the competent authority. Which authority? Spiritual authority, who is representing Krishna. So you have the right to perform your prescribed work. Like somebody is sick and he wants to recover. So he knows that if he takes the medicine, he can be cured. So what he does? He goes to the medicine shop, he examines the stack of medicines available there and selects according to his attachment and aversion, according to his likes and dislikes, according to the color, according to the size, which medicine he will take. And he happily comes back and takes the medicine. Can he be cured? What is the possibility? His disease will be further aggravated. He may die. He has to take the prescription given by the expert, which is the doctor. And then there is a possibility of him being cured. Similarly, we are thinking, the entire world is thinking. They are moving with this hallucination, with this false notion that I am performing work is worship. But we need to know which work. Bhagavad Gītā prescribes what are the work, which is prescribed, and he says, Ma phaleshu kadachan. And how this work has to be performed without any attachment to the fruit or the result or the gain of the action. Very difficult. You perform the action, but you cannot enjoy the result of the action. And never consider yourself to be the cause of the result of your activity. We think we have the doership mentality, that it is because of me that the action has been performed and the result has come. So Krishna is negating that. He says you have no right to enjoy the fruit of your work. He also says never consider the self to be the cause of the work, because you will see in the Bhagavad Gītā 3rd chapter, Krishna will give detailed explanation when he speaks the Karma Yoga, that all the actions are being performed because of the influence of the three modes of material nature. It is material nature which is responsible for the work. Material nature influences us and we act accordingly, like a puppet acts on the direction of the puppeteer. And then we may say that if we are not the doer and we are not the enjoyer, then why will I work? If I have to go to the office and work, and if I don't get salary and no recognition, no reward, that it is because of me that the work has happened. Why in first case will I work? So Krishna even negates that. He says, Mate sango asti akarmani. You cannot be attached to not doing good. So everything is negated. You are not the cause of the work. You cannot enjoy the result of the work. You cannot give up your work. You can do only one thing. That is to perform what you are told, like in the military. You have a commander and he says, let their cannon be on the left, let their cannon be on the right, and you march upright, irrespective of whoever is firing from wherever. So Bhagavad Gītā is for military man. It is spoken on the battlefield and it requires military discipline. So Krishna checkmates Arjuna and he releases Arjuna from all distress. You have to go fast. Okay. So this miseries of life which Arjuna was experiencing and we are experiencing, we are tormented every day practically with our mind giving us so much of negative thoughts. It creates a cobweb and entraps us and we suffer helplessly. So what are these miseries arising from? These miseries are arising because of a non-performance of duties. This is the consequence which is coming from material nature, which is inflicted upon all those who are in the human form of life. So we will see as Kali Yuga will progress, the misery, the mental disorder is the greatest challenge of today's generation. Depression, hypertension, anxiety, all these diseases, heart failures. I live in South Delhi. In South Delhi alone, there are more than 20 hospitals which are solely dedicated for heart. Why? Because the heart has become weak. Why the heart has become weak? Because we are not performing our duties. So the reactions are coming, miseries are being inflicted. So all these imbalances is a learning. All these imbalances which are coming, all these miseries which are inflicted in our life, it is only because of the imbalance of we neglecting our Sanatana, our duty towards the soul. So the key to success and joy is if one performs the two duties with determination and enthusiasm. And then he can be happy in this life and in the next. So this brings us to the final section of the second chapter. How to experience that joy, that everlasting happiness, that sustained happiness, that we are never inflicted with any misery or any worry. So Krishna speaks about this section. It is called the Sthita Prajna. So Arjuna becomes very much interested. Arjuna is very keen. Arjuna in the 54th verse, he puts forward this question. He inquires from Krishna that, my dear sir, you are inquiring, you are speaking about a person who is beyond all these miseries, all the threefold miseries, and one who is balanced in his life, and one who is in sustained happiness. So how to recognize? Very beautifully, Arjuna puts 4 questions in the 54th verse. Isthita pragrasta ka bhasha samadhi asta svakeshava isthitati kim prabhasheta kimasit vrajet. So very important. So Arjuna is very, very focused person. That is why Krishna chose Arjuna to speak Bhagavad Gita, because Arjuna is hearing every word what Krishna is speaking. And that word is entering the heart of Arjuna. And Arjuna's heart is moving according to what Krishna is speaking. Immediately he is an alert student. He is an awake student. He is not hearing with disinterest. He is hearing with rapt attention. And based on what he is hearing, he inquires. And Krishna speaks about the symptoms of a person who is in this higher consciousness, who is in the spiritual consciousness. He is sthita. Sthita means he is fixed. And pragya means which is intelligence. He is fixed in the higher intelligence, which is flowing down from Krishna, comes down in parampara. So his mind is fixed. How we can control the mind? If our intelligence is spiritualized. That is no possibility of. All the seminars are completely farce because they do not know what is the mechanism of mind. Krishna will speak in the just chapter only, his 3rd chapter he will speak, and he speaks about the lust, how to control lust. If you go to the doctor and tell him, however expert he may be as a consultant or as a practitioner, that please give me some pill to bring peace to my mind. But Krishna gives this dose. Krishna gives this diagnosis in the 2nd chapter. How to control the mind? By spiritualizing the intelligence. By aligning our intelligence with the instructions of what Krishna is saying. So the man who is fixed in his intelligence, in his transcendental consciousness, his mind becomes pure. And he is always steady in his determination. Then he is not influenced by the incessant flow or the flux of desires. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogata. And where are these desires arising from? Krishna gives a very beautiful discourse. This is a worthwhile discussing. Some other time, if you show interest, we can discuss in detail. So Krishna is speaking here that he is beyond the mental platform. Of course, he is beyond the bodily platform. He is beyond the mental platform. He is on the spiritual platform. He is unaffected. Like so many rivers are flowing in the ocean bed, but the ocean is unagitated. Similarly, the Sthita Prajna, this is the technical Sanskrit word, he is unaffected by the flow of desires. Or when the senses or the mind sees the sense object, it is not agitated. Why? Because the mind is purified. How it is purified? It is purified by performing the activities of eternal dharma, Sanatana Dharma. And it is experiencing that higher taste. So it does not get deviated. Beautiful verse Krishna speaks. All these verses are very, very filled with so much of promise and joy. He says that though embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, but the taste for sense object remains. So he gives the analogy. But seizing such engagement by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So Bhagavad Gita gives us the higher taste, that superior taste, that spiritual taste that we should all strive for. Once we experience that spiritual taste, then we cannot be distracted by the good taste. So this is the more graphical demonstration of what Krishna is speaking. So go ahead. So I'll try to conclude. So the missing link in our life, which is keeping our mind always perplexed, keeping our mind always restless, keeping our emotions out of control, because we are still not been able to achieve the practice. We have not received that link that is coming from Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is giving that link, that missing link in our life, connect with him and experience it. But there are pitfalls. Even though when we know that we have to elevate, but there are certain things which Krishna cautions us, and he says that there is still a possibility, there is a threat that one may not succeed. Why? A sadhaka, a practitioner who is wanting to elevate to the spiritual consciousness, he may be distracted. How? So Krishna gives that discourse in the 62nd and the 63rd verse. So these are the damaging thoughts which can convert us into and will push us in the same circle to which we were. We see so many times on the new year, we take so many new resolutions. But what happens? Years are passing, but the resolution has never seen that yet. Nothing changes. Krishna gives the comprehension, the processes of the spiritual fall down. Is thinking, willing, and feeling. So as we start to attach, so association, if we have the wrong association, and in that association, if we develop attachment, and in that attachment, we develop a liking or a feeling, so it becomes further strong. And then there is a desire to enjoy that object or that pleasure. So it leads to contemplation, then it develops attachment, and there is a strong desire to possess, which is called lust. And the unsatiated lust results in anger, frustration. And anger means that our intelligence is lost. When intelligence is lost, one is in delusion. He is bewildered, and with the loss of intelligence, he cannot discriminate. He takes wrong decision, and he falls down into wasn't existence. So these are the reasons that unless and until we perform the two duties, both the Swadharma and the Sanatana Dharma, we cannot be freed from the duality. We cannot be freed from the inner fight, the conflict which arise always in the heart and the intellect. How to perform work? Karmanevadhikaraste ma phaleshu tadata. Never expecting the right to enjoy the result. And giving up bad association and material attachments and becoming fixed in the instructions and the message of Krishna. Being peaceful, being joyful. So let us review the entire chapter. I have reached almost to the final part of the section. So this chapter is about the first theme. The first thing is whenever there is crisis in our life, we come upon crisis almost on a daily basis. What to speak of daily basis? Maybe on an hourly basis. There is always this conflict, what to do, whether to do or not to do. So in the eventuality of crisis, in the indecision mode, we should always take consultation. We should always be seeking consultation from spiritual practitioners, from those who are further advanced than us. And in the second section, Krishna speaks about the real identity, the eternal identity beyond both the body and the mind. And we see that how we are three-dimensional. The first, the outermost is the gross, which is visible. subtle, still not visible, but we can experience our mind, our intelligence, and our thoughts through our thinking, willing, and feeling. But the soul is beyond both. It is inconceivable. But it exists. Just because it is inconceivable to us, that does not mean that it does not exist. And how to come to the platform of realizing that we are the eternal soul? Krishna recommends the two duties: duty towards the body and the bodily relations, and duty towards the soul. And if we follow Krishna's recommendation, we can come to the level of spiritual platform, the spiritual existence, eternal existence, which is the sustained happiness, which gives us the higher taste. But Krishna cautions us to beware of the fall down. So all in all, this is, I gave you a bird's eye view, overview of the second chapter with the thematic conceptions. So far, with my limited capacity, I tried to present it to you. I see around 50 of your viewers are hearing. Krishna spoke to one person, that was Arjuna. We are very fortunate by the mercy of Krishna that we have 50 listeners. So I invite, there's one more slide. So if you have questions, but the time is over, you can inquire from us. You can write to us. Okay, so there may be many questions, because this Bhagavad Gītā is itself a session of question and answer. Dolamani, when he was giving the class, he introduced and he said that Arjuna raised 84 such questions in Bhagavad Gītā. There are 84 verses of Arjuna, and most of the verses comprise of Arjuna's inquiries. So if we are really hearing Bhagavad Gītā, there will be many inquiries in our heart, most of them genuine. So we want to address those inquiries. So you decide. If you have genuine inquiries, you write to us, or you can WhatsApp to us with the message, and maybe we can convene one special session to address all your inquiries. So I will stop here, and over to you, Sonika. You see how best we can address the inquiries of our very valuable seekers, those who are hearing them. Hare Krishna. Over to you, Sonika. Are you able to hear, Sonika? You unmute and speak, yeah.
Yeah, I have unmuted already. Am I audible now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Prabhuji, already questions are coming. They all are very interested because they all are patient listener, and they were just engaged in your words and the concept of Bhagavad Gita. So they are their genuine doubts are coming now, and they have put some raised some questions. So if you will allow, then we can take. Otherwise,
no, see, but the point is that I have already exhausted my time. It
yes,
is already
Prabhuji.
9.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Summit of the time, it is exactly 9.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So what I say, see, it requires a bit of explanation, because most of the are new. The conceptions are not there. We don't have these special conceptions. So it requires a bit of explanation and a bit of patient hearing. But as the time is there, our mind is still not pure. It has not been trained. It cannot remain unagitated when its scheduled time is over. And when we see, when the mind does not support us, we actually cannot hear. My request is you compile all the questions. And how many of you are willing to have another session to hear the answers of the questions that you have in your heart? I am willing to have one extra session. I see only one hand up.
Yeah.
Only one person. So for one person, okay, there is one more. I don't know. Still the numbers are very few.
Prabhuji, numbers are increasing. 10, 11, 11, 12. Yeah, people are interested, Prabhuji, because genuine doubts is coming, obviously, and it is obvious also. If they are listening properly and understanding, then doubt is obvious, as you told already.
To hear Bhagavad Gita, it requires a lot of pious credits. An ordinary soul who is completely engrossed in sinful activity cannot hear. His mind is so restless. Not allowed, the mind will not allow. But how to tame the mind? There is only one medicine, is to hear Bhagavad Gita. This is what Arjuna did. Nothing changed. He fought with Bhishma, he fought with Drona and killed all of them. But his fame and his glory is still being sung. What changed was his conception. Okay, now I can see many hands. It gives me inspiration. So I can have a session tomorrow or I can have a session on Saturday. You decide. Better would be, I would request that because you have had an overview of the chapter, that you please open the pages of Bhagavad Gita and make an attempt based on the themes that I have introduced to you and try to get some learning, some understanding, some at least the broad understanding of what Krishna is speaking. And based on that, you have your questions. And coming Saturday, this Saturday we proposed, but somehow it was not possible. So coming Saturday, what will be the date? Today is 26th. So coming Saturday is
2nd October, Prabhuji. 2nd October.
Oh, 2nd October is a holiday. It is the appearance day of our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi. When he says, when doubts haunt me, he looks at Bhagavad Gita. So let us follow Gandhiji on this one day of turning to Bhagavad Gita and having some learnings from Bhagavad Gita. So, okay, if you all agree, so we can have a session from 7:30 to 9 solely on the questions of both the chapters, first chapter and second chapter. And if any theme requires further explanation, I will dedicate that session for further explanation. See, normally I teach each verse for a couple of days. Some of my students are there with you. They know. Bhagavad Gita is unlimited because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord who is unlimited. So the knowledge is so much so that we have our limitation to receive knowledge. But Bhagavad Gita has no boundaries, no limitations. So to the extent we are keen, to the extent we have a desire in the heart, Krishna will reciprocate and allow this knowledge to transfer into us. So very good. I'm inspired for the first time. I see some genuine eagerness, some keenness to know. So let us have this session on 2nd of October from 7:30 to 9. We'll give you the reminders and we'll also give you the quiz. My request is please attend the quiz. Why? Because if you attend the quiz, it is not a question of how many rights or wrongs you do. That is not the consideration. The consideration is participation. You see, Arjuna was hearing and he received the benefit of Bhagavad Gita. Dhritarashtra was also hearing, supposed to be hearing, but he could not hear. He could not get any benefit out of it. Where is the difference? The difference is in the participation. The difference in following what is being told. This is just for you. If you participate, you will see so much more you will come to. It is not a question of how many right answers you get. So the spirit is of participation. When we will come to the 10th chapter, Krishna will speak. And who can know Bhagavad Gita? Who is in that spirit of participation? Bodhayanta parasparam. Bodhayanta parasparam. Parasparam is an exchange. It is not just the speaker is speaking and we are in the passive mode, videos off, doing some other engagement. Let him speak. Let me see what he has to speak. Nothing will enter into the heart. It will not even enter the head. What to speak of heart? Bhagavad Gita is for the heart. It transformed the heart of Arjuna. So let us all participate in that spirit of Bhagavad Gita. Let us have an exchange, which is the highest exchange ever known to the mankind, and take benefit of it. Thank you all very much for your very inspired hearing and for your very inspired response. I look forward for a further session on Saturday with all of you. with all my best wishes. Hare Krishna to you, and may the Supreme Lord Krishna bless all of you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Once again, I remind you that on 2nd of October, we will be having a quiz session, question answer session. And on 3rd of October, we will continue our third session of this Gītā Made Easy. Thank you all for being a patient listener. Thank you all.